Well, hey, Jen, welcome. I'm so happy that we're able to at least talk virtually.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, I'm just so sorry, that you couldn't make it live. We're really disappointed. And I want to first ask, how are you? I hope you're feeling okay. I mean, what's going on?
Oh yeah, so I don't probably something that some people can relate to, but I was actually exposed to somebody who tested positive for COVID. So just out of safety of everyone there at the conference, I thought it was the best decision to quarantine for a bit. So so I'm very sorry to not be there. I actually Search Insider Summit is my most favorite conference, and I haven't gone to a conference in a very long time, but this was one where I went every year, and this is the conference where I would say built most of my network actually, and it's really fun to see people that I met at Search Insider Summit like over 10 years ago now, like in starting their own agencies and really growing into leadership roles at Google, Facebook, and also on the brand side, on the client side. So it's really great to be talking to you all again, and I'm super disappointed that I wasn't able to be there in person.
Well, we are too. You are definitely missed. But well, I'm really glad that you're able to at least do this case study. And obviously, you guys have really transformed from a more traditional brand marketer really to become more performance driven. You've really accelerated your move to digital this past year and a half or so. And I mean, I know since COVID, we've of course seen a lot of brands relying more and more on digital. But what was it that prompted First Republic to pivot like this?
Sure. So I actually came on board December 2019 before the pandemic happened. And my role was created by our CMO because we needed to get stronger disciplines around digital marketing. So she was specific, strategically looking for somebody who had that type of leadership experience because we're pretty good at the traditional marketing piece, which I also did absorb. And that was part of the role. But I think to introduce incrementally this the digital marketing discipline at like that leadership level was something that they were looking for anyway. So the great thing about our bank that I've noticed is that they have quite a bit of foresight. They notice, they know what they don't know. We know what we don't know, and we have pretty good foresight. I think it's because we're a founder led company. So our founder is very strategic, and Silver is still here, and really has a lot of great strategic foresight. So that kind of trickles into the other areas. And so I think we as a bank were starting to see that we needed to get better in digital marketing, that we have our classic clients, but we also need to be able to speak to the next generation of clients a little bit better.
Well, and so
So that was why I was hired, and then the pandemic happened a couple months later, and so that need for that couldn't have been predicted.
right.
But I think what happened was that timing wise, like it really, like we realized, oh, okay, time to move into digital faster than we had anticipated.
Yeah, and so obviously, as you had most reliant on, you know, offline, and now you're having to go digital. There's a lot
Right.
of challenges I'm sure you're facing just as you're moving forward. What were the biggest challenges?
Yeah, the biggest challenges. So I think, coming into the bank, this bank is really, has a lot of pride in the aesthetic, visual design, also just who we stand for, our values, and it's not a brand that does a lot of bragging. We let like our service and our customers speak for all the areas that we're good at. We have our testimonial program, which I also manage, is pretty remarkable. Like I typically in my past careers, I've had to like really beg clients to be testimonials for us. And here it's like we have a lot of really like high net worth successful clients who are more than happy to be testimonials for us because we have such great service. So these are all the things that kind of like we kind of legacy wise we let it speak for itself. And so walking into an environment where I come from more of a performance marketing direct response background, even though highly regulated and still big brands, still more performance marketing driven and maybe a little bit further along in digital marketing. I come into this place where, it was challenging to get our creative teams and also just, just a sideways for us to want to talk a little bit more about ourselves, to be a little bit more vocal and optimize our creative and really bubble up into sound bites what we're so great at. So that was one area where I think I had to do a little bit of negotiation, and also to show the importance of measurement and performance marketing, but at the same time reassuring the folks here who've been here for a long time protecting our brand, that I wasn't going to turn our brand, pink and yellow, and I wasn't going to blow anything up, but make small optimizations.
Right. And also, I know that you had mentioned once before when we were talking earlier about legal, in terms of, this was something they didn't understand. You hadn't done it before. And so again, like bringing your creative on board, bringing legal on board, what steps did you take in terms of being able to, did you need to do something and prove its worth first, or were you able to kind of internally convince them and then move forward?
That's right, Lisa. I mean, I think like a really good practice, a good tip for those who don't already do this is if you really want to, if you want to introduce a new concept into a place that hasn't used it before, considered it before, the best way to do it is to test into it. And so that's what I did. And it was actually just because of the pandemic, the timing was appropriate to start testing a lot of this. It probably would have taken longer for me to get these tests launched had the pandemic not been occurring. Because the pandemic was occurring, there was an appetite, to get these tests into market. So there were things like historically low mortgage rates. And we offer mortgage and refi offers, and so testing that in digital was one test that I did. Also, just promotions and offers, and also client communications. So reaching our client. One thing that happened during the pandemic across almost every industry was that people were being bombarded with emails. So open rates for emails, I think, we saw trends of open rates of emails coming down because people were just getting bombarded. So we, as advertisers, not just advertisers, for client communications, we had to find different ways to talk to our clients. So for us as a bank, we wanted to encourage our clients to use our app, because of safety of our employees and also our clients. And we wanted to make sure that they knew that they can bank with us digitally. So how do we get that message across? Well, it couldn't just be email. So we had to find ways to find them in social or find them through display ads or other different ways to reach them and to voice a lot of the capabilities that we had.
Yeah. And also talk about, because at this point, you can't talk to your customers in the bank. This is something obviously digital, and which sort of kind of proves itself. Okay, we need to, up our digital game. But what about your landing page, your website, you talked about doing social and having to adjust the messaging. So talk about that transformation and how you were able to do it so quickly.
Yes. So, historic, for those who have, who are clients in the audience or who have seen our brand, I think you'll recognize our brand where we really lead with testimonials. And these are our very inspirational clients who have great things to say about our bank. So when I came into the bank and I really wanted us to emphasize more what we do, what we're good at, for those who aren't immersed in the brand, I thought that there was an opportunity through user testing and focus groups. I was able to quantify, again, like, you know, to what we talked about earlier, testing and using data to make a point. I can't just come in and say, guys, these testimonial ads, like, they're a little too esoteric. Like, you'd have to be immersed in the brand to really understand what's being said here. We need to actually be more succinct, or we need to say things a little bit more clearly. And so I would do user testing or focus groups to really get that point across through a net new audiences versus, you know, what we know internally or through our clients. So through that, you know, I was able to optimize our copy on our testimonials a little bit more. And then on our website, we had to make a few changes, right? Because I think people were used to seeing our ads in magazines and print, at home, in your traditional channels. But I think what happened was, with the pandemic, you know, people weren't really, I guess it's debatable. I guess some people were maybe reading magazines more and some people less because they're reluctant to touch their mail, or maybe they're consuming magazines and stuff when they're at doctor's offices. So a lot of behaviors were changing. So we really had to make sure that when they come to our website, that we're buttoned up and ready to go. And, you know, from a visual design perspective, we were beautiful. It's beautiful. Like, even like this, like, artwork you see in the back here, like, that's our original artwork. Like, we take a lot of pride in our visual design, and we don't use stock imagery. Like, everything's beautiful. The fonts are custom fonts. Another thing where it's like, custom fonts sometimes doesn't render digitally like it does on mail, but it doesn't digitally. So we have to start adapting a little bit. So I had to do that on the website and the landing pages too, because, you know, our load times were really slow because we had really beautiful images that were large files. We also had not taken into account things like where the page break happened. So using way too much of the real estate on landing pages to show our client testimonial versus like starting to talk about what our services were. So by doing that and making changes to the landing page and introducing a challenger to test against the control, there was a little resistance, but I was able to prove out, I think it was like 6x improvement in engagement. So reducing the bounce rate quite significantly, because there was more on the website now that that people would be able to engage with. So those type of little changes that I made as I was trying to introduce data, I think really helped with the evolution a little bit better.
Right. And well, you talked a little bit about how you knew even before COVID hit that you guys had to have a digital presence just because you wanted to maintain or even get a younger audience and keep them. So who was your target audience in terms of all of this, and what were your goals? How were you measuring the success of all this?
For sure. So I think what another thing was, it's not one size fits all. And, you know, I think one thing that I needed to also work on as a pretty immediate next step was like how we're targeting our audiences and segments cannot be one size fits all. We have to make sure that we're talking about the things that the classic Gen audience cares about to that audience, and be in the right places in terms of digital media, websites, also your media mix. You know, maybe I'm going to spend a little bit more budget for that audience in print than I would in my younger generation. So making sure that that I was set up to deliver different creative strategies for each audience was really important. And also with a lot of things that were happening in the macro environment from a social and community perspective, you know, I think more representation. We're already very diverse in terms of DEI. It's always been kind of a foundation of ours, but really I thought there was more opportunity to bring that to the forefront as it relates to advertising specifically. So I think our clients know about it, but it maybe wasn't coming across as much in our advertising.
So in terms of now, obviously it had to evolve. You had to get, you know, legal on board, you had a creative on board. What stood out the most for you in terms of what you were doing that really, that you credit the success of all of this?
Yeah, thanks. That's a really great question. I think one of the things is when you come into an environment where, you know, there's just a lot of legacy pride and legacy knowledge and the way that things have been. I mean, this is one of the reasons why this bank is successful is because of the way we have been doing things. I think for me, at the beginning, I came in a little bit guns a-blazing because I had that performance marketing and digital marketing background. And to me, I saw a lot of low-hanging fruit immediately, like, oh, this, like site speed, landing page not following best practices, segmentation of it. Like I was able to find all these things pretty quickly. We also have like really great things that we could brag about that I was like, why don't we put this all over our website? And I think it's for me, like it was really important for me to slow down and kind of listen because there is a reason why we've been doing things the way we have been. And then I think to categorize things like, okay, those are things that are more like culture related. That's the foundation of who we are as a bank. And I'm not going to I should not be challenging that so much. What I should be prioritizing more is industry best practices, right? Like, so if your hero shot is taking up all of your, everything above the page break, like that is something that, you know, you can test into and prove that that's probably not the best template for a landing page. So I think the tips that I would have is really respecting the way things have been done, respecting that, but at the same time being able to differentiate like what that pride and legacy is to like what some of the getting the brand kind of up to best practices, industry best practices that maybe the company's not leveraging.
Well, so what would be the key best practices that you needed to sort of step up your game in terms of that you guys weren't doing?
Sure. I would say it's things like just user experience. I would say it's things like before you take things to market, doing a little user testing. I would say full circle in terms of like you put together, spend all this time to put together a beautiful piece of creative. Make sure that you close the loop. Treat almost everything as if it's a case study, right? Treat everything as if it's a case. If it's fairly new to the organization, treat everything as if it's a case study and close the loop completely. Make sure that you have that soundbite at the end of what the performance win or loss was, so that folks know why you're making all these changes or trying to test into all of these things. So I think so there's that, and then I would say better done than perfect too, because this is I think like with a lot of brands that are considered like luxury brands, there's like this need for perfection. And sometimes when you're testing, I think it's important to get it done and get some results. It doesn't have to always be perfect. It doesn't, you know, so I think that's another piece that was a good learning through all of this.
Well, and it sounds like a lot of it in terms of moving forward and what you did, a lot of it optimized or really revolved around your landing page and making it so you talked about getting more people to your app. You know, the emails you wanted, you know, obviously people to respond to those, and you were having difficulties there just because of the situation. But I mean, so are you much more omni-channel now? And is that focus still about the site? Like moving forward, what are your key takeaways to make this all work as we go into 2022?
Yeah, I would say, I would say it would be data. So I think connecting, like it really started with a media mix model for us, like, you know, understanding where we're saturated from a geographic location and where we're, and from a channel mix perspective, understanding what that media mix looks like, making changes to it, and then testing that. And I think that allowed us to realize that we probably needed to take money where we're overly saturated, invest it more in these other different areas, whether it was channels, different marketing channels, or different regions. I think that was really the starting point for us, is really understanding the data around everything. And then through that, now making all of these changes, we were testing different things, and then realizing, okay, the landing page needs to be updated. In order for all of this to work, if we're going to invest more money in digital now, you know, like, then we need to make sure that we're set up to receive that new demand in digital. And those were the things that I think were fairly new, you know, like updating our landing pages.
Right. And so, when you say data, and we don't have much more time, so I just want to kind of focus in on where were you getting more of that data? I mean, because that's obviously an issue right now. There's so many restrictions. So where were you finding that data, and what were your metrics? What were you looking at to say, okay, this particular, you were doing testing, this worked, so then we're going to move forward? What was that specifically?
Yeah, for sure. So I think that I was really lucky. We had when I joined, we had already onboarded a pretty good agency, a pretty big one that really knew that really had great experience in media mix modeling and everything. So I worked with the agency in terms of, like, I mean, a lot of this is our own first party data that you would then give to an agency, to an advanced analytics or PhD team, who then ingest the data, put it through some modeling, and then spit out some recommendations, which then you would test and to validate. And that's what we did. Some of the KPIs, I mean, it was really around media mix spending. So how we're spending to how we're doing in terms of share of voice in a region, or new deposit growth, or new households. So a lot of it is taking all of the first party data that we have, that we deliver to the agency to help us kind of model it out.
So what are you most excited for next year?
For next year, oh gosh, so much to be excited. So I actually want to make landing, now that I've had some wins, that I've been able to demonstrate some wins, by introducing the idea of, you know, multivariate testing, landing page testing on a regular basis. I'd really like to build that muscle more, and become just have a landing page optimization team that is constantly testing. I'm also excited about, oh gosh, I'm so excited about a lot of things. I'm also excited about SEO, and being there with really compelling content for prospects who are searching on things that related to banking that there's white space on. I find that, like, you know, we make a lot of assumptions on what people are searching on, but when you really do look at the search queries and look at, like, what people are actually searching on, you find that there are places where there's white space that you could really go in and be the subject matter expert on. And so I like to think of SEO in that way, and then SEM more as like a lower funnel channel.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Jen. This is really great. And again, we're very sorry that you can't be with us today, but you're definitely here in spirit. And
Oh, thank you. That's why I'm wearing my winter sweater. I was trying, I'm getting really hot, because I was like, I had all my stuff ready to be in the snow with you guys. Is it snowing?
it's going to snow later, but
Oh.
so it's a little lighter on the snow, but we're getting some. We're getting some. We're looking forward to it. But the skiing, of course, is still happening. So
That's a beautiful place. The Stein Erickson Lodge, beautiful place. So I hope you guys have fun, and I'll see you there.
Okay.
Maybe at the Florida one, or but for sure next year at in Park City. So thank you so much for letting me still participate. And please reach out if anybody has any questions or want to talk about anything even more, or if you have tips for me.
We will definitely, I will pass your information along. And again, thank you, Jen, and stay well.
Thank you.